I want you and your audience to remember the worst day you ever had, the hardest it ever seems, the most difficult it ever feels. You got one guy believes in you and believes in your dream. And if you don't think so, you get a hold of me, JimStovall.com.
Welcome to the Big Money Influencers Podcast. We talk with top influencers and experts to help you navigate and prosper in your business. It's all about creating wealth, legacy, and an online presence. Here's your host, Ceanne Livingston.
Welcome back to the Big Money Influencers Summit. I'm your host, Ceanne. I am excited to introduce to you Jim Stovall. He's the president of Emmy Award-winning Narrative Television Network, and he's highly sought after as an author and platform speaker. He is the author of the best-selling book, The Ultimate Gift, which is now a major motion picture starring James Garner and Abigail Breslin. Steve Forbes has called him one of the most extraordinary men of our era. Besides making his television accessible to our nation's 13 million blind and visually impaired people, he has been selected as the Entrepreneur of the Year and also International Humanitarian of the Year, joining Jimmy Carter, Nancy Reagan, and Mother Teresa. Welcome to the stage, Jim Stovall. I'm so privileged and honored to have you here.
Well, it's great to be with you, and thank you for the kind invitation.
We'll just get into it because I know you have a wealth of information to share. Actually, I was on a call with you with Kimberly and Climmer. You said one statement about purpose that just changed my life. In a nutshell, what do you do? What are you passionate about?
My core business that I started with, everyone needs a base. My core business is called the Narrative Television Network. As a young man, my primary driving goal was to be a professional football player. I had the size and speed to do that, and the scouts and coaches and people that monitor that assured me that my future was set and all was well. And then one year during a routine physical to go play another season of football, I was diagnosed with a condition that would cause me to lose my sight. I had to make a switch in my life. I got to finish my athletic career as an Olympic weightlifting champion. Throughout my 20s, my eyesight slowly drifted away. And at age 29, I went totally blind, moved into this little room I thought I would never leave again. And in that room, we had kept our television and our video recorder. And one day, out of sheer boredom, I just put on an old movie I'd seen a bunch of times. And I thought I'll be able, even as a blind person, to listen and kind of follow along. And it worked for a little while, but then somebody shot somebody and the car sped away and somebody screamed. And I got really frustrated. And I said the magic words. I said, somebody ought to do something about that. And the next time you or any of your audience finds themselves saying somebody ought to do something about that, you just had a great idea. The only thing you got to do to turn your great idea into a great business is how could I help other people avoid the problems in their life? The opportunities come disguised as problems. Through the coming years, invented a system so that the 13 million blind and visually impaired Americans and many millions more around the world could enjoy movies and television, educational videos. And that was my core business. And out of the success of narrative television, winning an Emmy Award, I was asked to start doing a lot of public speaking and arena events. And then out of that, I started writing books. I've written over 50 books now. 8 of them have been turned into movies. And then I started writing a syndicated column. I do a national radio show every week. Those are my 5 businesses. And I always look at my businesses like a pyramid. There are 4 sides and a point on the top. Whatever I'm doing at any given moment is the point, but it has to support and be supported by the other 4. So if I write a book, it'll likely be turned into a movie. I'll talk about it in my column. I'll refer to it in my speeches. So everything supports everything I do. And that's kind of my core business. That's what I do today. I have a lot of philanthropy I'm involved with, the Stovall Center for Entrepreneurship at the university here. I have my own scholarship. We've sent 500 kids to college. I have a lot of those things. I have other businesses that I am just a financial investor, a partner in. But my core businesses are those 5 in my pyramid.
Wow, how exciting. That's amazing. Sounds like you're very, very busy.
Well, I enjoy what I do. So it doesn't feel like I'm busy. I love my work and I love my play. And I find at the end of most days, I'm tired and ready to quit working. But by the next morning, I'm ready to go back to work. Each year, I shut my company down over the holidays for 2 weeks and give everybody 2 weeks off. At the beginning of that 2 weeks every year, I always think I never want to go back. I don't need this anymore. I don't have to do anything anymore. So I think I don't want to go back. Then I enjoy a few days. And then the last few days of that holiday vacation every year, I am ready pretty much to get back to work and go do something because I love what I do. It's my passion.
That's excellent. That's key right there. Loving what you do and being in your passion. How would you suggest that people find what it is that they love to do? How do people find their passion?
We're born with a passion and we have that. Then life sets in and we get so busy making a living that we forgot to create a life. And if you'll be still and think about what you like, what feeds you, what makes you happy, what you enjoy, what you're good at. The combination of those things is your passion. The thing that comes easy for you that is hard for everybody else. I write books and they are very easy for me to write. I'm amazed by that. And I'm embarrassed to tell you and your audience that when I could read with my eyes, I don't know that I ever read a whole book cover to cover. But after losing my sight and thanks to high-speed compressed digital audio, I am able to read a book every day. Becoming a reader and consuming a book every day made me want to be a writer. But the first time I sat down to do it, it was like putting my foot in my shoe. I realized this fits. I can do this. And the same thing when I went on stage in an arena event or my radio shows or my columns. It fits me. It makes sense for me. I'm just not willing to trade my time for someone else's money unless it's something I really want to do. It works for me.
Do you have an ideal person that you write to, like a targeted audience?
Yeah. My audience I write for is me. I write the kind of books I want to read. And I tell my audiences when I go on stage, please don't miss the power of this message due to the weakness of the messenger. I'm not anyone that's arrived anywhere. I'm a fellow traveler. If you want to know what's going on in my life, just listen to what I'm telling you. These are the things I'm working. The same thing happens with my books and my movies. They are messages to me. They are things that make sense for me. And I am glad other people listen in and get good things out of it. But they are things I've discovered that I'm trying to internalize and live out in my life.
Do you have a project right now that you're working on that you're passionate about?
During the pandemic, when everything started shutting down, I realized, okay, my arena events are not going to be happening for a while. Movie production is going to shut down. So I decided I am going to crank up my writing. So I wrote 4 books during the year of the pandemic. I wrote a book called The Gift of Giving, which is my story of starting with $10, giving $1.5 million gift to a university to start the Stovall Center for Entrepreneurship. So I wrote The Gift of Giving, and then I wrote a book called Dear Napoleon, which is a retrospective on the work of Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich. And then I wrote a book called Passport, which is a novel about a guy who loses his relationship, his home, and his career all in one day and sets out on a quest around the world to discover what really matters. And it's called Passport. And then I wrote a bigger, deeper book, a retrospective of the 20th century called simply The Century. And it goes through the 17 things I think were transformational in the 20th century, beginning with the Wright brothers' flight, right up through the digital age and the internet and everything that's happened. Those are 4 books I wrote during that time. I have 3 of my novels are under option for movies. And as soon as the pandemic and the economic climate allows, we will make those movies, and I enjoy that. And then I do a lot of work at the Stovall Center for Entrepreneurship with college students from around the world who want to get a degree and create businesses. So we do a lot of that. So those are kind of a few of the things we're focusing on right now.
Awesome. So I have one more question for you. You talked about the pandemic and pivoting during that time for many, many business owners took a big lost businesses, and just had to shut down businesses, a huge impact. And I'm always talking about the way to be successful now is to pivot, find a way that's working. What would you suggest in ways to pivot? Not so much in mechanism, but in mindset. What's the difference between businesses that are failing and people that are going to come back up?
Great question. We have all experienced a different pandemic. This is unusual because economics are usually national or even local in scope. But there's no one on planet Earth that hasn't suffered from this pandemic, both physically and economically. But we all live in a different world. I have a friend that owns Broadway shows. That business has been decimated. There is no business. The whole thing is dependent upon putting large groups of people in tight quarters in a theater. I mean, that's shut down. If you're in the airline business, you've been hurt very dramatically. Then there are other businesses. If you have an online business or a delivery business or other businesses, you've done well. When I look at my businesses, I mean, the arena speaking events and movies have been shut down. But the previous movies we've made and the books I've written, there's never been a better time to be in the book and movie business than when the whole world is sitting at home and bored and they're looking for things to do. That's been a good time for me. In order to pivot, people listening to us now need to understand sitting and waiting for the world to open back up and go back to normal is a waste of time. We're not going to go back to normal. We may go somewhere better, a new normal that I think will be bigger and better. Remember, I got to interview Wayne Gretzky, the greatest hockey player that's ever lived. And I said, what is the key to being a great hockey player? And he said, I don't skate to where the puck is. I skate to where it will be. That is probably the greatest recipe for how to do business as an entrepreneur in the future. Don't look at where things are. By the time you build that vehicle and get there, it'll be gone. Look at where are things going to be and get out in front of those things.
Learn the secrets entrepreneurs can use to create wealth and legacy. Discover exactly how the top 1% are building financial success, wealth, and a legacy quickly in their business. These are the only secrets you need to create wealth and legacy when it comes to building your online presence. When you visit BigMoneyInfluencerLive.com, you will get free access to the exclusive Big Money Influencers Live Business Kit. It teaches proven secret strategies that successful entrepreneurs are using daily to create wealth and legacy in their business. Foolproof methods established business owners are using to live and build wealth and legacy. We know you're busy, so we have convenient audios, which include foolproof methods established business owners use to build wealth and legacy. Easy to follow binder notes. And if you're ready to 10x your online presence or ready to take your business online, you can book a call and discover how to get started. Visit BigMoneyInfluencerLive.com. That's BigMoneyInfluencerLive.com.
Don't look at where things are. By the time you build that vehicle and get there, it'll be gone. Look at where are things going to be and get out in front of those things. And for every business, there is an individual course or a path that will take you from here to there. Don't look at where things are. Don't look at the way things used to be. Get out in the future and look at where they're going and get out in front of it.
That's great advice. Thank you so much. I would love to talk to you more about the Millionaire Map.
The Millionaire Map is a book I wrote, and the Millionaire Map is my journey from poverty to prosperity. Very few people have met anyone as poor and helpless and hopeless as I used to be. And very few people have met anybody as wealthy and fortunate as we are now. We do everything we do in our lives to either gain pleasure or avoid pain. For most people that make a change in their life, they get off the path to poverty and they get on the path to prosperity. There's a point in time where things change. And for me, it came about with a loaf of bread. My wife, Crystal, and I, we've been together since college. We'll be married 40 years this June. I remember we went to a grocery store to buy groceries for the week. We had kind of a pattern back then. We were broke. Tell people we weren't even poor. Poor people can't get that far in debt. I don't know what we were. I had cash in my pocket, and she had a little calculator, and we would go up and down the aisles and buy groceries until the calculator told us we were out of money. And then we would buy our groceries and leave. Well, one day, fortune shined on us and we misfigured. And right there in front of the people in the line and the lady at the checkout counter and everything, Crystal had to go put a loaf of bread back. I don't know what it was about that moment, but it made me feel so poor and like a failure. And I just made up my mind. I don't ever want to feel this way again. I don't care what it takes, as long as it's legal, moral, and ethical. I don't ever want to feel this feeling again. And that was the beginning of the change for me. I discovered all the things that I talk about in that book, And it came from my mentor, Lee Braxton. And Lee Braxton had a third grade education, made $10 million during the Great Depression, and he gave 9 of it away and lived the rest of his life. Worked for nonprofits for nothing, made a difference in the world. And late in his life, he mentored me. And the first day I met him, he made me read Think and Grow Rich. And then he asked me some questions and he didn't like my answers. So he made me read it again. And again, I read it 3 times. And Think and Grow Rich became the basis of my success. And later, when I wrote the Millionaire Map, I talked about that. Think and Grow Rich was written by Napoleon Hill. And the head of the Napoleon Hill Foundation called me after he read the Millionaire Map. And he said, do you realize your mentor, Lee Braxton, was Napoleon Hill's best friend? And in fact, he gave the eulogy at Hill's funeral. And he sent me a transcript of that along with a 2-inch thick file of letters that the two of them exchanged during the 1940s and 50s and 60s. Napoleon Hill's book is different from any of my books or any other books anybody's ever written. If you're only going to read one book on financial success, read Think and Grow Rich. More people who have become successful credit that book than anything else. It happened because Napoleon Hill was born in 1883, and he was a reporter. As a young man, he was there the day the Wright brothers flew. One of his assignments was to go interview John D. Rockefeller, the richest man in the world, who was the founder of United States Steel. He'll ask him the question that you and I might ask the richest man in the world: what does it take to become wealthy? Carnegie answered, no one has really ever quantified that, but if you'll dedicate the next 20 years of your life to discovering that, you'll be the one that unlocks that door. Hill agreed to do that, and Carnegie introduced Napoleon Hill, this young 20-year-old kid, to Henry Ford, Alexander Graham Bell, and to Thomas Edison, and to J.C. Penney, and 500 of the most successful people of that time. And over the next 20 years, Hill synthesized all of their wisdom into a book called Think and Grow Rich. And from that day in 1938 till now, it remains the best-selling book in the field. And all other books, in my opinion, since then have been based somewhat on that. I love it when people read my books, but if you're just going to read one book, go read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Because it's not a theory, it's not a formula, it's made up of 500 people who actually did that. I'm a big believer, don't ever take advice from anybody that doesn't have what you want. That book is based on the most successful people of that time and what they actually did to make it happen. That's what my book, The Millionaire Map's about. When I started writing the book, I wrote that phrase, don't ever take advice from anybody that doesn't have what you want. Then I came home and told Crystal and my family, I said, I'm going to have to do something very, very uncomfortable because in our society, it's not appropriate to talk about religion, sex, or money. And I said, I'm going to have to talk about money. And I'm going to tell my readers, don't take advice from anybody that doesn't have what you want. I think they're entitled to this. So I went to Merrill Lynch and Bank of America, and I had them do an audited financial statement on me. Not my businesses, not my books, royalties, not my movie royalties, just cash on hand and investments to show that I had in excess of $10 million. And we actually printed that in that book. And that's never been done before that I'm aware of or since. I thought my readers are entitled to know who's giving them this advice. Then it's kind of a step-by-step mental process. And money's a mental process. If you took all the money in the world and divided it up evenly, within a few short years, rich people would be rich again and poor people would be poor again. Because the key to money is not money. The key to money is knowledge. If you have the knowledge, the money comes back. If you don't have the knowledge, it goes away. Like the people who win the lottery and a few years later, they're broke because they don't have the knowledge. Given a choice between knowledge and money, choose knowledge and you'll have both. If you choose money, you won't have either one. And it's not about you or me or the people listening to us right now. Money is a result. It's not a cause. You know, a lot of people call me up and they say, Jim, I want to make a lot of money. And I hear from a lot of people. I have 10 million books in print and my contact info is in all of them. So I hear from people all over the world, and they say, I want to make a lot of money. The only people who make money work at the United States Mint, and they print dollar bills. The rest of us have to earn money, and the only way we earn money in this life is by creating value in the lives of other people. So as in most things, it's not about you and it's not about me. It's about those people. And if you want more money, don't think about more money. Think, how can I get up tomorrow morning and serve more people and serve them in deeper ways.
Absolutely. I love that. One thing you said reminded me of the statement that you had made about a year ago. And you talked about knowing your purpose and only saying yes to those things that lined up to what you wanted.
Our purpose in life is to find our gift, and we create meaning when we give it away. And you've got to find what your purpose is. And if you're going to say yes to the right things, that begins with saying no to everything else. In my life, when I first started out, broke and scared and blind and didn't know what I was doing, nobody wanted me to get involved in anything. Well, today, I probably have the opportunity 4 or 5 times every day to get involved in a new product, a new venture, a new opportunity, a new business. That's why I keep my pyramid in mind. I have 5 things. That's what I do. If it doesn't feed those things, or if it isn't fed by those things, I don't do it. I'm in the message business. When I remember that, things go well. When I forget that, we have problems. I was a national champion Olympic weightlifter. And at one point, I was one of the strongest people in the world. You train within a very narrow range of motion. So you lift the bar in this same groove all the time. If you stay in that groove where you train, you get very strong. But if you get just a fraction of an inch in front of or behind that groove, and you get out of your range, you become pretty weak and pretty ordinary rather quickly. So Superman turns into Clark Kent if you get out of your power zone. That is true not only for weightlifters, it's true in business too.
How would my audience find you?
You can always find me, Jim Stovall, Stovall, jimstovall.com. You can email me, jim@jimstovall.com. I have my phone number printed in all of my books, 918-627-1000, 918-627-1000. I have real live people that answer the phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you just call them up and say, I saw Jim as part of this virtual event, and he told me my dreams could come true. And right now I'm not sure. I need some help, or I need somebody to believe in me. I want you and your audience to remember the worst day you ever had, the hardest it ever seems, the most difficult it ever feels. You got one guy who believes in you and believes in your dream. And if you don't think so, you get a hold of me, jimstovall.com.
That's wonderful. That's so encouraging and so generous. Well, thank you so much for meeting with me. I really appreciate the time that we shared together and the information that you shared. It's amazing.
Well, it's an honor to be with you and your audience. And I really appreciate you, and getting to meet you as a gift, kind of an extension of our mutual friend, Brian Clemmer. It's his legacy that brought you and I together. And much of what I know and much of what I share came out of that mutual effort with Brian for many, many years, and continues because of his legacy through Clemmer. And so it's just an honor to be with you. And I look forward to your success and everyone that's a part of this virtual event.
To discover the secrets entrepreneurs are using to create wealth and legacy, visit bigmoneyinfluencerslive.com. And here's a big ask. If you love this podcast, will you take a minute